So, you're not sure what to bet? Don't worry, I gotcha. Welcome, football fans, gridiron gamblers, and all of my degenerates. It's Mitch here with your last minute best bets for NFL Week 14. This is the video where I cover all the bets that I haven't already discussed. The team totals, teasers, props, and more. If that sounds good, Gronk, spike the like button. And don't be a jabroni. Subscribe for weekly NFL picks, best bets, and more. If you're wondering, Mitch, what are you betting on Sunday? Well, the place to go is Patreon. Link in the description. $5 a month to see what I bet every week. And you can also support my journey as a content creator. Let's get started with my best bet of the week. And I will be releasing this on Patreon. My best bet of the week is Sunday Night Football. The Kansas City Chiefs team total, or the Chiefs in general, to go under 23.5 points. You can find this somewhere in the range. I've seen it at minus 120. I've seen it at minus 135. It's going to be within that range. Minus 120, minus 135. If you want to get a little bit more aggressive, you could go the Chiefs under 21.5 points. That's going to be closer to even money, maybe even slightly plus money, depending on where you're betting. I don't know the odds for every book, so forgive me. But the best bet is the Chiefs under. The Houston Texans are the best defense in football. I've been saying that since late last season, this offseason, and the entirety of this season. I'm even quoted in their Instagram hype video for the season claiming that the Texans have the best defense in football. This is actually a real thing, okay? I am the leader of the Houston defense hype train in many ways. And I'm prepared to make some money betting on them this week. This is a complete and utter mismatch that not enough people are talking about. This Sunday Night Football game that everyone seemingly believes the Chiefs will find a way to win magically. Just as people kind of discussed when they talked about the Chiefs versus the Eagles. No football analysis, no X's and O's. Just that the Chiefs would randomly win because they're the Chiefs. Okay. Or how the Chiefs would beat the Bucs despite a complete disadvantage at the line of scrimmage in that Super Bowl against Tom Brady. Okay. And for the very same reasons, I believe that the Chiefs are going to have a very tough time. Now, these Texans don't have the offense of the Bucs with Tom Brady or the Eagles of Saquon Barkley last year, but what I feel safely that I can give to you here is that I don't think the Chiefs are going to score a lot of points. Even if they win this game, they're not going to score above 23. They're not going to score 24 plus points in this game. This is nearly a guarantee. This is the best bet of the week, okay? The Houston Texans defense against Indianapolis, one of the best offenses in football, on the road, in a dome, allowed 16 points. Against Josh Allen, the reigning MVP and one of the best run games in football, they allowed 19 points. Against Kyle Shanahan, they allowed 15 points. With their quarterback going down in the first quarter against arguably the best team in the AFC, the Denver Broncos, they allowed 15 points. Against maybe the MVP of the NFL, the Los Angeles Rams, they allowed 14 points. And against Baker Mayfield, who at the time was playing like an MVP, they allowed 20 points. Those are just some of the teams that they have played. Now, obviously, there's been a couple outings where the Texans have given up more than 24 points. Jacksonville, weirdly, was one of them. although there was a punt return in that game. So that erases 7. I think it would have been around 20 if they wouldn't have allowed that punt return. It would have been under 23. I'll just say that. And then the Seahawks game, which is the closest you could get to a team actually scoring more than 24 points. But if you guys recall that game, the Texans offense was so bad. And if you actually watch the game, I think you remember how dominant the Texans were in that game defensively. They forced like 4 turnovers. They had numerous sacks. They even scored a touchdown in that game. So that was a bit of a fluky over. It was just that the Texans were so bad on offense that it kind of just got out of hand. But the Texans are a lot better on offense now than they were then. CJ is also back, okay? And when you look at it from the Chiefs' perspective, they only scored 23 points against the Colts without DeForest Buckner. They only scored 21 points against the flawed Bills defense, and they only scored 19 points against the Denver Broncos, which is a similar, although I don't think as good, caliber defense as the Texans. So only 19 points. And against Buffalo, 21. So if you did want to take under 21.5, or maybe split your money in a way so you could be a little aggressive under 21.5, but then also put maybe more money on 23.5. Depends on the odds and what you're getting, but I think that both of those looks are pretty good. But I can confidently say that I believe the Texans are going to hold the Chiefs under 24 points on the road. The Texans are the number 1 defense in points allowed on the road, allowing only 19 points, or not 19, sorry, that's too many, 16 points per game. 16 points per game, okay? This is a complete mismatch at the line of scrimmage, which is what I was alluding to with Philadelphia and Tampa Bay in those Super Bowls. We've seen Patrick Mahomes collapse and be hurried and be rushed and be panicked against really good 4-man pass rush units in those Super Bowls, where the teams really didn't have to blitz to get pressure, and I believe the Texans will do the very same. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson is the best edge combination in football, and either one of them can take over this game single-handedly. The Chiefs are without 3 starting offensive linemen, including both tackles. Morris is going to be starting at right tackle, and Moore will be starting at left tackle. Both are fine backups, but neither one of them is Simmons or Jawan Taylor. It's a significant downgrade for the Chiefs. Plus, they have razor-thin depth now that they have 3 replacements on the offensive line. The right guard replacing the all-pro Trey Smith, who's awesome, is Caliendo, one of the players that got decimated by the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl by Milton Williams, the Patriot, and then also Jalen Carter. So 3 below-average starting caliber offensive linemen will be taking the field for the Chiefs. That also affects the run game for the Chiefs, and probably a lackluster ability to run the football with any consistency. On top of that, the Texans have maybe right now, under the radar, probably the best free safety in the NFL in Bullock, who's playing incredible, and I don't think he's going to allow much over the top. Derek Stingley is a top 3 corner no matter how you slice it, and he could take Rashee Rice out of this game. Kamari Lassiter is one of the best CB2s in the NFL, and either one of these guys, right? Neither one of these guys will be fazed by Rashee Rice or Xavier Worthy, but either one of these guys could take either one, and I wouldn't be too surprised for either of them to handle it. The Texans can rush 4. They are, creative enough to send creative blitzes at times when they want to on 3rd down, and they're good enough in the secondary to hold up when they blitz, which is another tough aspect for the Chiefs to be able to control in this game. Also, the Texans are very fast, and they can sideline to sideline cover and tackle. They've got guys like Azeez Al-Shaair, Jalen Petrie. These guys can go sideline to sideline and wrap up in terms of yak plays, which is what the Chiefs are so reliant on, especially when their offensive line is so poor. And I just don't see the Chiefs being able to create a lot of yak or a lot of horizontal offense against a defense that is this fast and vicious. And they will hit you, unlike a lot of other teams against the Chiefs. So in all aspects, this is a complete mismatch for the Texans defense. I think they are going to borderline embarrass the Kansas City Chiefs offense and allow themselves a chance to win this game, which is where I'm going to translate the rest of my bets. Now, I did talk about the Texans plus 3.5 being a best bet on the channel in terms of the spread. Now, The only concern about this game from the Texans' vantage point is that I'm not a huge believer in their offense, especially against Steve Spagnuolo at home, where the Chiefs have been an incredible home defense. I think they're allowing 14 points per game at home. They're second best in the NFL at home, only behind the Packers. So the Chiefs' defense could win them this game, but I still think that it's going to be a low-scoring field goal game, which means the Texans plus 3.5 is a good look. At the same time, though, if you want to be more aggressive, we've talked about win margins many a time, and last week we hit on the Jets, just one of them that we hit on, but the Texans by 1 to 6 points at plus 400, I think is a really nice bet. If you are like me and do believe in the strength of the Texans defense, I think it's worth it to put some money on the Texans winning this game in a close defensive battle by 1 to 6 points. They did it last week against Jacksonville, which was another one of my bets last week on Patreon. So I will probably be betting the Chiefs under team total, the Chiefs to lose this game, the Texans to win by 1 to 6, plus 400, and then the Texans probably on a 3.5 spread. I'll probably be betting this game in a variety of ways on Sunday Night Football. It's probably the game I'm looking forward to the most. Now, when we're talking about team totals, there's a couple others that I do want to float out there. Not saying these are must bets, but I'm just saying that these are bets that I think are interesting. The Cincinnati Bengals going over 23.5 points at minus 118 is the price that I could find. I think this is a pretty good price. This is going to be a high-scoring game. I love how the Bengals match up with the Bills, and this is also going to correlate towards some props, or one in particular prop that I love for this game that I will be betting as one of my best bets of the week, nearly as close to the team total for the Chiefs. Okay, so just wait a second here, but the Bengals are going to score. They're going to move the football. The Bills, this is a terrible matchup for their defense. They are a defense that is good when you can only throw it or when you can only run it, as I've discussed before. But any semblance of balance that your offense possesses, it's difficult for them to handle it. McDermott can't scheme around it, and he can't specifically scheme around his deficiencies of his personnel or his defense. Now we don't have Ed Oliver, okay? No Ed Oliver for the Bills, right? And then no Joey Bosa. So no Joey Bosa, no Ed Oliver. That's 2 of the 4 starters for the Bills. Ed Oliver's been out for a while, but that, I think that compounds when you don't have Joey Bosa there. Also, Bernard, their linebacker, who's a big playmaker in the middle of the field, he's also out. So there's going to be a slower linebacker in pass coverage back there. Also, okay, Cincinnati has a incredible duo of receivers, arguably the best in football, right there with the Dallas Cowboys or anyone else, right? The Rams. T. Higgins, he's going to be back. Jamar Chase, he's there. And Joe Burrow has had that rust, kind of scrape off of him a little bit. So Joe Burrow, who is undefeated against Josh Allen and Sean McDermott, by the way, is going to be playing this game where his season's on the line. And you look at the Bengals. They haven't lost a game with Joe Burrow since last year's week 14 or something. They are incredible in December as a team, as a franchise, Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow as a duo. And they do that by scoring points. They do that by matriculating the ball downfield, and they do that by a balance of run and pass. I do believe that the Bengals are going to want to possess the ball because they understand how bad their defense is, and they don't want to give Josh Allen many opportunities in this game to control the pace their way because the Bills are a controlling of the pace type of team. The Bills are not an explosive team. The Bengals are the more explosive team, but I think the counterpunch from the Bengals will be by running the ball and quick passes, and I think once you see Burrow hit that back foot, he's going to get the ball out, curl routes, quick outs, quick slants, things like that. And you're going to see plenty of Chase Brown. So I think the Bengals are going to be able to throw the ball because the Bills will be, I think, too overcompensating towards Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, which is going to leave Chase Brown big openings in this game. And then I also think if they try to stop the run, which eventually I think they'll have to, I think that's going to open up big plays for Chase and Higgins. So I think either way you slice it, the Bengals are going to move the ball and score points, which is why I think they're going to stay in this game, maybe even win this game. And I think them winning as well by 1 to 6 points at plus 425 is another win margin bet that I would take a chance on. Again, those win margins are long shots. It's plus 425 for a reason. But if you think that team has a chance to win the game, I think it's well worth it. Now, the real best bet of this game, again, I like the team total for the Bengals. I like the Bengals' opportunity to win. I like the Bengals' opportunity to cover here. But the real best bet for me is Chase Brown. Chase Brown at 50 plus yards rushing is minus 120. That is sensational, okay? He has gone over 50 yards rushing 5 out of the last 6 games, okay? Also, on top of that, you're looking at if you get 70 or 75 yards. I would personally go with 70 yards because it's plus 200, and it still correlates to 5 out of the last 6 games. Chase Brown has ran for 70 yards. At least. He's actually ran for 100 in a couple outings. Chase Brown has been a focal point of the offense in recent games, and they have been running the ball exceptionally well. They are now facing a bottom 3 run defense in the NFL, and like I said, a defense that's going to be overcompensating with too high structures and shells against Jamar Chase because they're scared to death, and T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow, right? So because of that, there's going to be a lot of inside zone. Do you guys remember that playoff game, the Bengals and the Bills, in 2022? Joe Mixon had an incredible game. He was maybe the best player in the game. That's what I'm sort of expecting from a game script and kind of like game plan perspective. I'm expecting a lot of runs out of the gun for Chase Brown, and I think he's going to have around 100 yards. And I bet personally 70-plus yards for Chase Brown at plus 200. 5 out of the last 6 games, he has gone over this, and I really like the price there. But if you want to be conservative, 50-plus is another great bet. So 50-plus will be, the shout for the video. But if you want to get a little bit more aggressive, 70-plus is also a good look, just given the odds at plus 200. And given that it's the same correlation, 5 out of the last 6 games, Chase Brown has at least rushed for 70 yards. Okay? On the flip side, I do think Josh Allen, his touchdown prop at 1.5 passing touchdowns is a pretty good bet as well. Just going to float that out there because it's near even money, and you can get Josh Allen near even money at home where they score 30 points a game and they're taking on a bottom tier defense. I think that's a pretty good bet myself. Okay, not too complicated there. Some other team totals that are interesting. The Raiders under 14.5 points is plus 100 and or even money. I don't think the Raiders are going to score 3 times in this game. Maybe 3 field goals, but the Denver Broncos defense, they held them to 7 last time they played. The Raiders are horrific on offense, and they can't block a soul. I think Denver, after a bad performance against Washington, is probably going to be hungry to play better, and they've already seen this offense once. Now, there will be some changes due to the different offensive coordinator, but I see nothing about the Raiders that makes me believe they're going to score 15, 16, 17 to 20 points against this Denver defense. So I like the Raiders under 14.5. The Saints over 16.5 at minus 105 is pretty interesting. I think Tyler Shuck, first of all, is underrated. I think he's played really well. Chris Olave had a good game against the Bucs last time out. Juwan Johnson still playing well, and now they've got Vele involved. I really liked how the Saints moved the ball against Miami in that second half last week, and I do think the Saints can score on the Bucs defense with a pass-heavy script, and being that it's the second time they will play this defense, it's also going to be nice weather in Tampa Bay, most likely, so I actually see this game as going over the total between the Saints and the Bucs. Over, I think it's like 41.5. I think both these teams are going to get to the 20s, so I think the Saints will score at least 17 points. I think 16.5 is a pretty key number, and to get that at minus 105, I think it's a nice, tasty little look. Okay, so those are some team totals. Those are some of our main bets. We've got the Chiefs team total. We've got the Chase Brown yardage. Those are like the biggest bets, I would say. Another big bet that I could potentially be making is Nick Folk. I know that sounds kind of funny, but the New York Jets kicker has gone over 1.5 field goals in 9 out of his 11 games, okay? 1.5 field goals, 9 out of 11 times. And the odds here are minus 105 for him to kick 2 field goals. He just kicked a game-winning kick. And when I look at that, I say, like, they're going to have a lot of confidence in allowing him to go out there and kick at any distance. Because he just nailed like a 57, 58-yard kick, 56 or something like that, in that range for the game-winning kick last week. He's been one of the best kickers in football this year. He's almost never missed this year. It's going to be cold, but I don't see any snow or anything that could impact the kick. Now, maybe there will be wind by game time. I can't confirm that, but it's the Miami Dolphins, who the Jets kind of moved the ball pretty easily against in the first game. Tyrod Taylor only gives them a little bit more to their offense in the passing game. And yeah, I kind of feel like 2 field goals for Nick Folk. I mean, that feels pretty easy. So for me, that's probably my second favorite prop of the week, only behind the Chase Brown look. Not a lot of analysis you can do with a kicker, but Nick Folk's been as good as any kicker you can imagine. He's kicked in that stadium a million times. Miami's defense is not very good, and the Jets have already proven to move the ball against them. I think the Jets could actually win the game, so I like Nick Folk to kick a couple field goals. Now, people are waiting for the extra points. I don't really have many great ones. The only one that I kind of liked at the odds was McPherson at 2.5 extra points plus 105. But the thing is with that game, it might be snowing, which could totally change if you go for 2 or if you kick a field goal or an extra point. So I don't know if I could give you that, but check the weather. That is pretty good odds. But I already said I think they're going to score over 23.5 points, which would mean McPherson's probably going to get 3 touchdowns and 3 extra points. So I don't mind that one. I also like Jake Moody. I know this is kind of a weird look, but Jake Moody field goals over 1.5. Minnesota is one of the best teams to play if you're a kicker in fantasy football. They're very good in the red zone and they're stingy. Washington moves the ball on practically everyone. And if you look at Jake Moody this year, he actually played really well last week in terms of the field goals. I think he had at least 2 last week. He's had multiple games where he's kicked 4 field goals in a game for teams. So his volume has been there this year, and teams are trusting him to kick field goals. It's in a dome in Minnesota, one of the easiest places to kick in the NFL. So I don't really fear in him missing as much as I do at other games. So yeah, I think and the Commanders also know they're playing JJ McCarthy, which means they're going to be more conservative than they are aggressive, which means more field goals. So I like Jake Moody, I like Nick Folk, and I kind of like McPherson in terms of the kickers this week. A teaser that I think is interesting. We've got 2 primetime games to look at that I think you can make a separate teaser with. But then also for a typical 6-point teaser, let's go with a 4-teamer. Jacksonville, teasing them from 1.5 to 7.5. So through the 3, the 4, the 6, the 7. So you get them above a touchdown for Jacksonville. And I think they're going to win the game outright. So I really like that one. Jacksonville, it's going to be rainy, which means it's probably going to be more defensive. Also, that means less scoring, which means the 7 points is more important. And then also, I like their run defense. I like their run game. I think they do actually have the advantage in that regard against the Colts. Denver, minus 1.5. Take them down from 7.5 to 1.5. I think Denver wins this game easily against the Raiders. They already had their close game against the Raiders earlier this year. I'd be shocked if they lost to the Raiders in this game because they're coming off a bad game, and I don't think Sean Payton will let them have 2 bad games in a row. The Chargers, going from 2.5 to 8.5. This might be the diciest leg of them all because the Eagles can be good at times, and then also the Chargers with the quarterback situation. But no Jalen Carter, no Lane Johnson. That might be the 2 best players on the Eagles. I picked the Chargers to win this game. I have a lot of confidence in the Chargers defense in this matchup against the Eagles. I think it will be low scoring. So to get the Chargers above a field goal, above 4, above 6, above 7, even above 8, a 2-point conversion type game, I think that's a great leg for a teaser. And the Texans plus 9.5, as you guys probably already guessed. That's a very defensive game. The total's 41.5. It's going to be very cold in Kansas City. I don't think the Chiefs are scoring more than 21 points. So I'm going to take 9.5 with the Texans. A 5-point teaser, if you can find this, I do like the Texans and the Chargers at 7.5 and 8.5 in prime time. If you just want to have a prime time teaser, that's sometimes pretty fun to do. So Chargers and Texans would be the look at 7.5 and 8.5. And then a couple win margins that I think are interesting to finish this off. The Jets to win by 1 to 6 points, just as we bet last week against the Falcons. Why not do it again? Plus 340 against their division rival, Miami. Tua has never won at a temperature this low. Now, he has never lost to the Jets, but he has never won in the cold. So we're fading Tua on the road in the cold against the Jets in December, where he typically loses. And I like how the Jets are playing. I think they're playing well defensively. They're playing fast and physical defensively. And I think they can run the ball on the Dolphins. I think that will open things up for Tyrod Taylor. This is going to be a close game. So I like the Jets plus 340 by 1 to 6. And then Jacksonville by 1 to 6 plus 300, which I mentioned. I think they'll win this game. I think that their ability to run the ball in the Colts is going to be there. I like how Jacoby Myers is fitting in and Brenton Strange is playing. And I think that the defense for the Colts is a little susceptible both through the air and on the ground. No Sauce Gardner, no DeForest Buckner, big losses for them. I also think that Daniel Jones is beat up and can't really move that well. They're not running the ball as well lately. Jacksonville has a top 3 run defense. This is a spot where the Colts have not won in 10 years. So I like Jacksonville to win a close one by 1 to 6 points plus 300. There it is, guys. My last minute best bets for week number 14. It's not the biggest card I've ever done, but some pretty strong plays in my opinion this week that I'm really in love with that I probably will release on Patreon. So guys, if you want to check out my entire card for the week, check out Patreon, link in the description. Thanks for watching. Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. It's Mitch. Peace.